11 more. I'd never heard of anyone doing 11 in a week. That was my first $20,000 week. And I'm like,
okay,
did that just happen?
right.
Because I didn't graduate. Because you got to understand, I'm standing on the street holding closing documents and checks and going, wait a minute. I was told that if you have a credit score of 398, this isn't possible.
You're listening to the We.L.E.R.E Real Estate Show, a podcast that discusses the intricacies of real estate investing with your host, Marcus E. Maloney. Marcus is a real estate investor best known for being the equity king. He's been awarded that moniker because he and his team find amazing real estate deals. He will be talking with investors who have done some transformational things in the real estate industry. They'll discuss their process, their strategies, and how their investments transform their lives and the communities they invest in. We welcome you to the We.L.E.R.E Real Estate Show.
Hello, family, and welcome to another We.L.E.R.E Real Estate Show. And today's guest, I am honored to have on the other end. His name is Jay Massey. He's the CEO and founder of the Casholohw Diary, a training and development brand for developing short-term rental entrepreneurs. If you guys are not aware of Jay Massey, he's coming out of Cali. He is a good brother, man. I've been following and listening to him for over 4 years. I was introduced to him over his podcast, and he's doing some amazing things. Jay did a couple of transitions, and we'll let Jay talk about that. But before the Casholohw Diary, Jay raised capital and invested in traditional real estate. He held 34 units, over 46 doors, and he transitioned into short-term rentals. So without further delay, I want to welcome Mr. Jay Massey to the show. How are you, Jay?
I am glad to be here because what people don't understand is like none of this was the thought process. Like, oh, this was all going to happen and et cetera, this entire time. I just wanted to feed my family and make cash flow happen. That's really it. There was no premeditated, this is going to be the path. I know some of you out there, you actually know I'm getting married this time. I'm doing this day. And I'm like, I'm not that way. So it's always a privilege, honestly, to have people listen and to have people want to talk to me about cash flow and what it is that we can do to go out there and make that happen.
Okay. Well, I wish I had an applause button, so when I did the introduction, there we go. There we go. See, that's what you have after you've been doing podcasts for numerous years.
Totally understood. Yes, I got lots of toys.
Yeah. So Jay, tell me, man. Like I said, I've been an avid listener to your show, the Casholohw Diaries. Tell me about your amazing history, how you got started, how you jumped into real estate investing.
So it's born out of a need. I mean, honestly, that's what it was. There was no training at home at the kitchen table that said that this is going to be the path and one day you'll do real estate. As I've said before, I have a PhD. That's a public high school diploma. There's nothing in my background that makes you go, oh yeah, clearly that's exactly what's going to happen. It was simply the fact that my wife, when she's pregnant, she has a condition known as hyperemesis. It means she can't eat and drink simultaneously, and that's called a problem. And I got stressed, and I went to go play volleyball and to blow off some steam. And what ended up happening is, well, I punctured my lung. I was born with asthma, and now I'm in a situation to where my wife can't eat or drink, and I've got a hole in my lung. I can't walk and talk simultaneously without fainting. And it was a challenging situation, but it was a good lesson. The lesson was very simple, is that we needed a source of income, but we didn't necessarily need a job. And there was no rule against developing a source of income, but not having a job. My challenge was my ignorance. I did not know how to develop a source of income. And that is what we end up popularly calling cash flow today, is how do you build and develop assets that give you, your family, a source of income if for some reason you can't be that source of income through your time yourself. And that just set us on this journey to find out how to do that. And like most things, I always want to find how to do it better. So
Gotcha.
like, okay,
gotcha.
cool. I got started. Now let's do it better.
So this was developed out of a need. Definitely, you had to take care of your wife, had to take care of yourself. So you guys couldn't traditionally go and work because of the medical condition that you guys were having. So how did you get started with real estate because of that need?
So what happened, and what's really interesting is that I want to say that every one of you listening, you have skills that are transferable. You just may not realize it yet. Even the person who's been stay-at-home parent for a long time, you have skills that are transferable, and you're just not sure yet how to transmute those into the real estate world. And the same was true for us. So before real estate, what I was doing is we were selling our personal possessions on eBay. And then through eBay, I was learning that, okay, cool, we're almost out of stuff. And then I just simply was like, but other people have stuff, and they have stuff at a garage sale. So that began this process of learning how to go to other people's garage sale, researching ahead of time while I'm standing in front of the garage sale, researching what they had available and looking it up to see what it sold for on eBay, or known in the real estate world as pulling comps. I'm literally standing at the garage sale doing this and then going, okay, cool, I see what it sells for. So let me go then buy this thing, and I know I can sell it for this, so I need to buy it for this. And if I can buy it for this, then we can make money. And I kept doing that over and over and over again. And then one day a friend sits me down and says, you should become a real estate investor. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if you heard me. I said, my credit score is 398. We are squatting a bank-owned property. I am selling personal possessions and going to other people's garage sales, trying to eat. How on earth? Because again, when we have patterns, often when we're presented an opportunity, what we start thinking about is what we don't have.
Absolutely.
We're not qualified. How we haven't been taught or trained, or we haven't had someone's permission. He didn't say any of that. That was not a part of the that's not what he said. He was just inviting me to become something more than what I currently was. And for whatever reason, during that moment, it was one of those times where I didn't let that stop me. You know, my normal pattern of I don't have credit, I don't have money, I don't have, I've never done, no one's ever told me I could. So obviously I can't. I didn't let that pattern happen. Therefore, I said, okay. And I issued it to him as a challenge. I'm like, look, you're going to have to show me how to do this with literally no money. Now, I say that, and I say it that way because some of y'all, you think you have no money. Because I was a financial planner. I know what you mean. You're like, you know, because I've had clients that are like, yeah, Jay, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm down to my last $2 million and help. I'm like, we got lots of options.
Right,
you
right.
know? So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about as in no money, as in he paid for lunch because I had no money, period.
Gotcha.
And he was willing. He didn't shrink back from his confidence and understanding of what was possible through real estate. And it just turns out that wholesaling is exactly like what I was doing on eBay, where you would find a deal, find something of value, and find a different person who was willing to pay more for that very same thing. And all you more or less did was market it a little bit better than the person who was selling it. And I'm like, why hadn't nobody told me this before? You know, it felt like some secret place you have to go trek to find this information. So, but that's how we got started. And man, I promise you, it was transformative, because the first 6 months of 2008, we were, you know, losing everything. And then June 18th happened. That's when we closed on the very first transaction. And then 3 weeks after that, we did 11 more. I'd never heard of anyone doing 11 in a week. That was my first $20,000 week. And I'm like, okay, did that just happen?
Right.
Because I didn't graduate because you got to understand, I'm standing on the street holding closing documents and checks and going, wait a minute. I was told that if you have a credit score of 398, this isn't possible.
Absolutely.
I was told that, you know, I needed to go to college to do this. I was told that for people who look like me, we got to play a sport. We got to sing a song. We got to be on the corner. We got to do something other than what I just did. And I wish I had a different thought in my head, but I literally said, do they know? Like, I was waiting for somebody to come tap me on my shoulder and say, excuse me, sir, that deed doesn't belong to you. We made a mistake.
Yep.
Oh man, it's crazy. Go ahead.
So Jay, let me ask you this, because basically you and quite a few of the people that we have listening, that's their position. I don't have any money. I can't start. What do I need to do? How can I do this? And you took the trek. You said, you know what? I'm going to get out here and provide for my family. So if it's wholesaling, garage sale items, this is exactly what I'm going to do. So what within your physiology brought you to that point to where you said, no matter what, I'm going to make this happen?
Well, the challenge was very simple, is that comfort kills dreams. I could no longer, fear was now too expensive. Pride was way too expensive. I couldn't afford it. Gotcha. I had no other option, not for lack of trying. I didn't have any other option. I couldn't call home. There was no one, there was no parachute there. The marketplace was saying, hey, if you want a job, then you need to come with, because at the time I was a financial planner and I had to have $2 million of assets under management. And I'm like, dude, if I had $2 million of assets under management, I wouldn't be here looking for a job.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, so it's not for lack of trying. Trust me, I had no choice. It was literally fighting for milk, bread, food, because I didn't have any other option. And I didn't have the luxury of trying to put my better idea into the equation. I said, okay, gotcha. Cool. The only thing I can do is do exactly what they say as fast as they say it. I can move at the speed of instruction. That's what I can do. I can do that. I was too ignorant to know any better. So you know what I did? I just did exactly what they said, and it worked. And I'm like, okay, do that again.
Yeah.
And there's no limit. I can keep doing this. Okay, great. And that's when I learned that real estate's a skill, just like tying your shoe. If tying your shoe paid $50 for every shoe, many of us would be talking about tying shoes and building a business around tying shoes, but it doesn't. But real estate, the skill sets are the same. I can play, every one of us can play any game if we're taught the rules. And these were the things that this whole new world was just the unveiling and revealing itself before me, because I didn't think it was possible. I didn't know it was possible. No one said anything. You're right. Gotcha. There was no like yellow brick road for me to walk down and go see the wizard. It was something that just revealed itself because I was desperate to eat. And when you're too comfortable, you won't risk.
Yeah.
Won't. You're too afraid to risk. I was too afraid to risk. Understand, what you are hearing, I know that if I wasn't put in that position, we probably wouldn't be talking today.
Wouldn't do it. Okay. And that's one of the things that I talk to people about, is you have to be placed in a position of uncomfortability in order to get where you really want to go. You know, because if you're comfortable and you feel that, hey, I'm satisfied where I'm at, you won't take that risk. You won't push yourself a little bit further. And you was in a position where you had nowhere else to go. You know, you were literally stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Right.
You know,
absolutely. I mean, we can't learn and look good at the same time. And looking good was out the window. Yep. It's like, hey, I am getting foreclosed on, evicted, running from the police. The repo man's looking for my car. I have a credit score of 398 and no job. So what's left?
Yeah. And living in California.
Right.
You know, so
I have nothing that from the outside looking in, you would not have chose me for your team, period. But I had one thing, and every one of you listening have the same. desire to make something happen. But most importantly, you have a willingness to learn how to create value. The secret to this entire thing, if there is such a thing, is value. The marketplace cares about value. They don't care about your credit score. Can you provide us value? If you have a way to solve my problem, I will pay you for it. And I tell people all the time, just think about the last time you went to the emergency room. You did not ask the doctor or any of those people, where'd you go to school? What grade did you get in biology?
Don't care.
What's your credit score? Did you wash your hands before you came in the room? You didn't ask any of those things. You asked, can you solve my problem? You walked in with your problem and you were looking to them for a solution to your problem. Nothing else mattered. And that's the key to the marketplace. It doesn't care about your condition. It didn't care that I was squatting in bank-owned property. You got to understand, I'm the guy squatting in bank-owned property, selling property to other people. Kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you say it out loud.
Contradictory. Yeah.
Oh. But the marketplace didn't care because they wanted what they wanted. And when I clued into that, it was no longer about me. And I'm like, okay, then what else can I do? What else does the marketplace want? Just tell me what you want. I'll go find it. And that's basically how I built and started doing wholesaling. It became me interviewing other people who said they wanted to buy stuff. Then I would ask them, what do you want to buy? And then I get better at asking that question. And then I would go find what it is that they said they couldn't find. And then I would say, cool, pay me $2,000. And that's what happened over and over, hundreds of times. And I'm like, this is crazy. I could have been doing this a long time.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so crazy, but yes, what happened?
So Jay, starting out, you had this mentor or this person found you and
from church. He was at church. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you guys get started? What did he do to kind of stoke that flame? What did he teach you or show you how to do?
He showed me how to believe in me. That's it. Because he didn't have all of the technical knowledge. He pointed me in the right direction and told me I could, and showed me that to believe in me. Gave me an opportunity to actually play full out at a game where I'm now taught the rules. And it was just one of those things where learning to believe, learning to build, learning these things that were about me. And I remember one day he's like, one of your superpowers is that you have learned how to learn. And my friends still make fun of me. They're like, anytime, give him something new, come back in 72 hours and just watch. You'll see.
That's where the magic happens, huh?
Yeah. It's like I do learn relatively quickly on certain subjects. And that's what happened. But I also learned to he taught me to develop a propensity to take action over analyzation, because it's easy to analyze. Well, let me tell you why you're analyzing. You're analyzing because you don't have a compelling enough reason to actually take action. So you understand, if I didn't write an offer, if I didn't get it sold, we didn't eat. There's a tight window of accountability there. You're hungry every day. That means I don't have time to not write an offer today.
Right.
I don't have time for that. I don't have time to keep analyzing the same deal 4 times.
Yeah. And analyzing that's that safe zone, and that's what I tell people. When you're sitting there analyzing, and like you said, analyzing a deal 4 and 5 times, you're in that safe zone. That's just part of your fear to say, okay, let me pull this trigger and make this offer.
100%.
So tell me about that first wholesale deal. I know it was a while ago. Tell me,
it was a mess.
Tell me what you had to go through.
It was a mess because, remember, if you're a parent and have kids, you understand what I'm about to say, because I only needed and wanted the next step. That's it. Any more than that, and who knows what would have happened.
Too much. Yeah.
So and think about it. So when you turn on the GPS in the car, it doesn't give you it. I mean, it may list out all of the steps, but the audible, what you hear is the next step, because that's the only step that matters, right? Because the steps after that might change depending on what you do next. So I took the next step. What does that look like? I asked people, okay, so if I want to do a wholesale deal, what do I have to do? Okay, you have to go find a seller, someone who's willing to sell you the property. I was like, okay. And then I went to a networking group, and that's what I did. I found a seller. And then I went back to them and said, okay, I found a seller. And they're like, okay, cool. Where's the contract? I'm like, what contract? They're like, well, you got to buy the property. You have to put it under contract. I'm like, oh, well, you didn't say that. So do you have a contract? They're like, yeah, here. I was like, great, cool. Then I went back to her and said, hey, here's the contract. And I just kind of gave it to her. And she's looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and she's like, what do you want me to do?
What?
Right. Like, I don't know. They said I needed a contract. And I'm like, okay, never mind. I'll be right back. So I went back to them. I was like, okay, cool. You gave me the contract. What do we do with it? They're like, oh, you need to fill it out. How?
Exactly.
What goes where? And because you got to understand, they're looking at me like, is he for real right now? I'm like, yes, I am very for real. Tell what goes where. Oh, okay, got it. Cool. I'll put that there. Great, no problem. And then I go back. All right, cool. Here it is. And they say you're supposed to sign here. You sign there. And then I come back. I'm like, okay, now what? They're like, well, now you need to open escrow. I'm like, cool. What's that?
Right. How do I do that?
How's that? And then so this, what was really funny, this was one of the times where I said, well, just call my friend. They'll tell you what to do. So cool. I call them. I send the paperwork over. Now you got to understand, I don't know up from down. The only thing I know is that I'm supposed to be putting together all the resources that I need in order to get this deal done and closed and whatnot and find my buyer. Here's what ends up happening. Sorry, it's just funny to say, because there are so many people who like would not do this because they're like, oh my God, I would be so embarrassed. But this is what happened. It's like 2-3 weeks later, escrow lady calls me and goes, okay, we were wondering if you were going to come by and pick up your check. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, the deal's ready to close and we just didn't know what to do with the file anymore. Okay. So what do you want me to do? Well, all you have to do is come by and pick up your check because you have to close escrow. And I'm like, okay. So I hang up the phone, and then I go to the people who had been advising me. I was like, she wants me to close the escrow. How do I do that? Because I'm thinking like close a book. It's something physical. I'm supposed to close. Like, can someone give me an escrow so I can close it and get paid?
Right.
Because I don't know what that means. And again, they're just like, I cannot believe that. It's like, and you got a deal? You can see the look in their eyes. Yeah. Like, you don't know this, and someone was willing to sell you a house. Yeah. What do I do now? Well, now you need to physically go over there. Put it. I was like, oh, okay, thanks.
Just go and get your money, Jay.
I did, but I didn't understand. I didn't know that. Because they just said, keep doing the next step. I needed the next step.
Exactly.
That's all I cared about. The next step, not 12 more steps. Not what do I, and that's how I tend to attack a lot of things. And it works out in my favor. And that's what just in time learning. The marketplace rewards us for that.
And that's what I tell people, especially those novice getting started, is you just have to follow the next step. Like you said, what you said was absolutely perfect for someone getting started. Find out what that next step is and just do it, and then come back. But the problem is some people are too embarrassed to ask questions because they feel like, well, this is a stupid question. Well, it's not a stupid question if you don't know what that next step is. You know, so what you did was you was like, you know what? I'm willing to be vulnerable. Whatever it is, I'm willing to do it because I need to eat. My wife needs to eat. My family needs to eat. So it was like, whatever the next step is, I'm going to do it. So, and through that whole process, now you have that learning curve. Okay, I know the steps. Contract, you know, seller, buyer, contract, escrow, close, pick up the check. So now when it's time to go through this next process, you understand it better, and it's a lot easier for you. So great. So you got started with wholesaling, and I know that's normally the way a lot of people get started, especially when you're broke. You know, you were going through foreclosure. You were squatting in the property, you know, selling whatever you could, you know, to close off your back in order to make ends meet. After you closed that first deal, what was that thought process?
Yeah, that's what I went through earlier when I'm telling you, I'm standing in the street going, I don't think, do they really know that I just bought this house? Do they not know that? I mean, I'm like, but my credit's this and this, blah, blah, blah. All of these things are going through my head, like, and then eventually it culminates in, so what else have I been told that's not true?
Right. Basically.
Let's go find out. And then I started telling people about what I did. And then I started hearing, oh, you just got lucky. Oh, I bet you couldn't do it again.
Right.
Oh, sure. It works for houses, but it doesn't work for apartments. All of those things became challenges. Don't tell me stuff like that, because I will go, let's go find out.
Let's try it. Exactly.
Look at that. I did it again. Guess I'm really lucky now.
Yep.
You know, and that's basically what kept me trying new and different things, is because this new and different world was unveiling itself, and I was being trained to recognize opportunity. And that's the purpose of education. It's to be able to draw from your environment and see what's possible for you and I. The challenge is that most of us have been trained to recognize a job. That's it. And if you don't see one of those, you're like, there's no opportunity.
There's nothing. Yep.
There's opportunity everywhere. It's hard to turn it off. And that's actually now the problem, is it's everywhere. And once you learn how to function without a bank, once you learn how to function in an environment where their lending's not available, your credit's not there, and you have to do all of the extra stuff and raise capital and build teams and blah, 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 you can buy any building you want. You can buy any business you want. There is nothing that restricts you other than your desire to actually go and do the work. And as I began to put those pieces together, the world just began to change, because the marketplace doesn't care. Can you solve my problem?
Solve the problem. And one thing that you were good at was you were good at spotting opportunity. And that's one thing that some people have a problem with, is, like you said, their whole opportunity is, will somebody hire me? Can I find this job? But when you have that entrepreneurial mindset, you start seeing these opportunities. And just like what you said, is you start seeing so many opportunities, you have a volume of opportunities to choose from. And now it's like, okay, which opportunity do I want to pick? You know, and that's kind of the situation that most entrepreneurs end up being in. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, okay, Marcus. Okay, so here's the deal. You got to hear me on this. Most people think that they can't or don't see opportunity. I am about to tell you a place that everyone, I don't even care what language you speak, everyone hearing me right now, hearing this, how they have seen opportunity. They just didn't know it was opportunity. And I'm telling you right now, later today, it will happen again. And now it will occur for you differently, such that you see opportunity. The best place, one of the best places to see opportunity for free, multiple times per day, is the news.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the head.
It's not opportunity. So instead of using the word opportunity, use the word problem. Who is complaining about a problem? Who's talking about a problem? And all you have to ask yourself is, am I willing to learn how to solve that problem for that person? If I am, there's your opportunity. That's it. And the news invests a significant amount of time telling you what the problem is, who caused the problem, what they think, how much longer the problem's going to last. And they spend a lot of money, time, and resources telling you about a whole bunch of problems, piping it in directly to you for free. And all you have to do is ask yourself, am I willing to solve a problem for the person or persons that they are currently talking about? If the answer is yes, there's your opportunity. It's just literally that simple. And it's been happening your entire life.
Yeah, and those are free case studies for you to work on, you know, and that's one thing I tell people. It's tons of opportunities out there. You just have to open up your eyes and train your ears to hear those opportunities when they present themselves. So
100.
Jay,
Mhm.
you started with wholesaling. How did you make that transition, man, to raising capital? Because you went
Got it.
from one extreme to the next. How did you do that?
So the transition over to raising capital came about because we got so good at the wholesaling piece that what happened was we could not, well, here was the actual conversation. I sat down with my CFO. My CFO said, okay, we're almost ready to file the taxes. Here's what's going down. By the way, there's about $400,000 that is unaccounted for. Do you know where that went? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, we don't have all of the receipts we need, and we don't know where 400 grand went. Can you tell me what, like, and she was straight up like, let's sit down and figure this out together. I'm like, you what? I
Right.
don't know what I had for breakfast today, and you want to know? Okay, wow. So, and then I was like, okay, so what happens if we don't have that? And they're like, well, then you're gonna have to pay taxes on that. I'm like, come again? And how much is that? I'm like, I see. So
Right.
I was learning a very painful lesson. And then after we got through that, I was like, okay, so how can we make sure that that doesn't happen again?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, well, you need to, you'd have to keep some of these. You'd have to hold them long term. And I'm like, okay, got it. And how many do I need?
Right.
That's basically how it started. It's like, how many do I need? And then I was like, okay, cool. So that's what we're gonna go to do. Next thing they know, God, you gotta understand. It's like a week, 2 weeks later. Cool. I have 35 houses under contract now, and I have to keep these, right? Okay, cool. So that began I need to raise a few $100,000 so I can keep them and do this and split it up this way. And that's exactly what happened. And we began what I call our house collecting phase. We ended up with hundreds of more houses than I care to remember. And we ended up switching to apartments because then they said, hey, every time you close a transaction, it's wonderful, it's great, but it's not really that much of an economic impact on you anymore. So you need to do bigger deals. I'm like, okay, what kind? They're like, I don't know, that's your problem, figure it out. And that's how I started with apartment buildings.
So those problems made you scale up. That's basically what happened. You ran into a problem where you were successful, and because of your success, you had to scale up.
Correct.
You know?
And that's all I was asking. I was just responding to what, oh, so if I keep doing this way, you're saying I pay more taxes. Got it. Then it became, all right, cool. Well, how do I pay very little
less taxes? Yep.
Then I started asking, is there a way to not pay any tax? How just like, is that possible? There is. Cool. What do I need to do? And then we started doing that. And then we went into commercial, and that's how we got into cell phones, cell phone towers and whatnot, because it was all cash flow related. Remember, you needed a source of income. And I was just going to the next thing on this journey to solve the next problem. That's all I've ever done, is trying to solve the next problem that presented itself.
Jay, you gave us a lot just right there within those 30 seconds, man. So you went from wholesaling to all of the residential rentals.
Yeah, we went to residential rentals, single family houses. Then we went to residential mortgages, which made the tax problem worse. And then we went to apartment buildings, and then we went to commercial, and then we went to cell phone towers.
So you touched almost every aspect of real estate. You went from wholesaling to residential rentals to note investing, now to multifamilies. Where did you get the financing from when you had that first initial problem where they said you need to hold 30 properties?
Got it.
Where did that financing come from?
My first $5 million came from other people's retirement plans.
How did you do that? How did you? I mean,
place to go, and it's everywhere right now. I mean, so here's a quick example. You know that news report you heard a couple weeks ago that talks about, oh, now there's 30+ million people unemployed.
Yep.
I promise you, there's a good number of those people who have a 401k that is still sitting at the old company,
old job,
right now, today, and they just don't know A, what to do with it, B, that they can do something with it, and C, that they can do something with it with you.
Right.
And because of that, that's why you don't have the capital, because you haven't told them, as I've said before, he or she who educates their market dominates. So educate them that it's possible, and watch how many people choose you suddenly. And then you have what you need to go do the next thing, whatever that might be.
Right. So again, it goes back to solving that problem.
That's it. Because all you're doing is solving a different problem. That person who has a dormant 401k has a problem. Solve it. Help them learn that they can move it, and they don't have to depend on Wall Street returns and Wall Street risk. Oh, I didn't know that was possible. Yeah, I know, but it's been around since 1974, so don't worry about it. Nobody knows. It's like and you become that source. And that's really that. Again, that is this secret.
Yeah.
Solve somebody else's problem.
Right. And position yourself. And that's exactly what you did. So Jay, let's take a brief moment. Let's take a brief moment here, and we'll hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll come back and we'll touch on some of the things that you're doing, some of the new things that you're doing.
PropStream is the industry's #1 tool for locating distressed properties and connecting with highly motivated sellers. With 100% coverage across the U.S., PropStream provides a deep dive into any property's specific details, making it easy to generate lists of distressed properties and contact to the owners. No other product or service can compare. Gain access to MLS property details like expired listings. You can pull accurate comps, even sale prices in non-disclosure states. This information is typically reserved for licensed real estate professionals, but it is also available to you in PropStream. Gain access to unlimited nationwide property search, comparable home sales, targeted marketing lists, and owner contact lookup, built-in marketing tools, hundreds of filters to search and sort leads. Start your free 7-day trial now by going to proud.propstreampro.com/WeLoveEquity.
Okay, we're back. So Jay, you pivoted again. You left the apartments. Now you're into short-term rentals. How did that occur? How did that transition occur?
So understand, the name of the company is CashＦlow Diary. It's about cash flow. I've been asset agnostic from the beginning. I cared, how can I derive an income without having to work? What can give me that? If it's spoons, then spoons. It's great. What I care about is being efficient with the time and being able to generate the cash flow. What happened is that one of my students, because during the process, what happened is someone said, hey, will you teach me everything you know? And then I started teaching people along the way because they wanted some of the same results. And then I found out I enjoy this product. This is great. I like helping someone get their first 6 or 7 figures and being a part of that journey. So that's fun for me. And one of those individuals came to me and said, hey, we raised capital, like you said, but we didn't do what you said to do with the money. What we did is we did this thing called, Airbnb. Have you heard of it? I'm like, tell me more. Because that's usually a bad sign when someone says something like that. And I've been a proponent for a long, long time. There's a gentleman by the name of Russell Gray who says, if you do the math will tell you what to do.
Yep.
I'm like, cool, let's sit down, let's do the math. And when they showed me the math, I was like, wait a minute. Do you understand what you have here? And they were looking at me like, no, tell us. That's why we're sitting down. Like, oh, okay,
right.
Got it. And what I saw was, again, a solution to another problem. Because at the time, I was trying to create more jobs locally, and I wanted my younger children to see more of what we did on a day-to-day basis. I wanted to be able to empower more individuals with the capacity and the impact of real estate, and because it can be great, but it can be challenging getting people started.
Yeah.
And what happened is the short-term rental world, knowing everything I know now, is by far the best first place to start to build cash flow, especially if your long-term goal is to hold property. If that's where you're headed, that's what you want to do. Knowing everything I know today, I wouldn't do wholesaling. I would not, even though I know the benefit of it. I would not do that. I would do this short-term rental. That's exactly what I would do, because the way that it's done, the way that you can get started, the lower investment up front, the shorter time to actually seeing cash come back to you. It just, all of the skill sets and experience that you need, it's all right there for you. And it puts you in a stronger cash flow position such that you are able to purchase property sooner than any other strategy, again, that I know. However, it does have one problem, which is simply that it produces a significant amount of taxable income.
Taxable income.
That's the problem. So
So
everything else is there.
So even in this current economic climate with COVID and everything like that, how did you pivot with your short-term rentals? Because for a minute, 2 months, everything just stopped. Everything just froze. How did you still generate, wealth or generate income during those times?
I hate to be boring, but it's going to sound very familiar, is that I just solved a different problem. So understand and who we were solving it for. For example, when international travel, so our primary customer was an Asian business traveler. That customer went away, right? They're not coming to the United States, so they're gone. But then you start asking yourself, is there anyone else who still has a need for temporary housing? So I'll give you some very, very simple, top level, easy ones. Think about this. Does someone still have an issue if the pipes in their house burst and the house floods?
Absolutely.
Does that still happen if there's a pandemic?
Absolutely.
Yes. Cool. Then we still have a customer. So then it becomes, how do I find that customer? How do I find the insurance companies who are placing these people? Because that's what they're doing. And they're doing it every day. Everywhere. So it's not unique to California. So that's just one of many. So let's ask another question. Is the military still doing what the military does? Are they still training people, still recruiting people, or are they still shuffling families around? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. There's another customer. So then we started developing relationships with a lot of the military bases across the United States. Then you have to, again, you just keep asking the question. All right, cool. So this whole virus thing, it has a 14-day period. People are supposed to quarantine. So what happens to the fireman or police person who runs in to save someone's life and suddenly is now exposed? That means they have to quarantine.
Yep.
I bet you they don't have a second house to stay at, and they probably don't want to sleep in their garage. You know what? They can stay at our place.
Yep.
Comes another customer. And then you just keep going. Oh, wait a minute. The schools, they shut down? They kick the kids out? Oh, my goodness. What about those kids that are from another country? Yeah. How is that going to work? Oh, my God, they need a place to stay. You just keep going.
Yeah.
One after the other. So, yes, travel, or a lack of specifically international travel, did hurt the revenue initially. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. But that didn't remove the use case for temporary housing. And again, guess what the news was doing? Advertising it.
Yeah.
That's how I found out. Oh, the schools are shutting down. That means this. Oh, the senior citizen, the nursing homes is having an outbreak. Why? I bet grandma could stay at our place. All of those things came from that, so it was just a matter of listening to where the marketplace was still crying and screaming, and then learning how to get in front of that person. So yes, there was work to be done, marketing that had to be learned, systems that needed to be changed, but that doesn't mean the business went away.
Yeah. So what did you do pivoting with your marketing to find those people? Was it just Facebook ads? Was it Google ads?
Everything.
Everything
works. Nothing doesn't. Okay. So just remember that. And yes, we started posting on Facebook, started posting on Instagram, started making phone calls directly to, visiting hotels and going to, because remember, the hotels were on skeleton staff. Guess where people were still going? They were still going to the hotel saying, hey, I'm gonna stay here. So, hey, conveniently leave some flyers, because guess what? People might track you down and find out.
Right.
You start making inroads with the hospitals and calling them. All of these things, it became a lot more outbound stuff, because the inbound stuff wasn't going to naturally come, because no company was set up for that at the time.
Gotcha.
And so it was a lot of the just basic business development skills that needed to come to play. So I was like, okay, got it. I know what I need to do. Just got to do a lot of it until we develop those right relationships with centers of influence that could send us the referrals that we needed.
Well, a good thing about it was you learned early that you can't sit there and analyze and try and figure it out. You just had to take action. And that was one of the things that most people do during pandemics, during emergencies, is those who take action are those who are ahead of the curve. And that's one of the things that you did. You said, hey, I see the problem. I spotted the problem. This is what we can do. Let's do it immediately, and not sit there and try and, oh, well, what if we do this? What if we do that? You didn't have time to gather a committee and say, hey, let's take a vote. No, let's spring into action and let's do it.
Yeah, no. There was a 3-day period back in March where I watched more than 117 reservations literally melt away. And
Wow.
And you just got to understand it was like, wow, I'm just going to shut off my email and not pay attention to that right now, because I got to get ready. It's game time.
Yeah.
It's game time. That is what it is saying. I don't know the answer, but I got to get ready to play.
Figure it out. Because I heard on one of your podcasts, you said it was like 80 grand just disappeared in reservations overnight. And like you said, right, I need to shut everything down and just put my game face on. I got to try and recoup some of those revenues. So
it did. It was when if you've ever had your company lose 80 grand of monthly recurring revenue, 80,000.
Right.
Think about that for a second and go, okay, so let me paint the picture for you. You had built that revenue over a number of years using certain tools and methods. So understand, you've got to rebuild that revenue,
right,
and 1% of the time using none of the tools you originally used, because those tools right now are impaired and don't work.
Right.
So you've got to reinvent something completely new for a customer that you are not yet prepared for, but is out there, and you got to do it quickly.
Wow, that's powerful.
And that's what we did. And that's what we started. And that's why I think it was I want to say it was either March 17th or 18th. I just started going live to tell everyone and our students, look, I know what's going on. I got it. Don't freak out. I don't have all the answers yet, but we're going to get them, and we're going to get them together, and let's keep taking these steps. And that's what we've been doing, and that's what we will continue to do, because that's what's necessary to solve problems for the broken marketplace.
Right.
It's our job. You're an entrepreneur. Solve a problem.
Yeah, solve the problem. And that's good, Jay, because you had other people that was watching you, your students. Okay, how is Jay going to pivot? How is he going to handle this?
Right.
Because if you would have, freaked out and just, got scatterbrained, they would have done the same thing. But they followed your trail that you blazed as far as how do we solve this problem.
Well, what's funny is that history echoes in so many ways. This feels like what happened when I first got started. Understand, I got started during the Great Recession, is what they call it now, right? It was like, oh my God, here we are again. Is this really happening? I know exactly what to do this time.
Right, exactly.
I can't believe this. This is amazing. So, but having to step people through that and develop all the new tools, all the new resources, everything else that has to happen to go along with it. Yeah, not easy, not fun. Wasn't something I was planning on doing this year. But guess what? It doesn't matter. Marketplace says, I need this. Can you provide it? And the answer is yes. And here's how, and here's who we are. And oh, by the way, here's a whole bunch of news. We have brought on so many more new students who have started new businesses during this pandemic because of the needs, because so many people exited and ran away.
Yeah.
Almost in every marketplace, there's 30 to 40% less temporary housing available. Well, I'm like, neat. This is interesting. So people still needed, and 30% to 40% of you are gone. What do you think might happen? Yeah, rising tide lifts all boats. Yep. The only question is, how many boats are you going to have?
So opportunity, again, spotted the opportunity in the midst of chaos. And that's all you have to do.
Every time.
So Jay, let's
Yeah.
roll into our hot seat questions real
Oh,
quick,
bring it.
man. I got about 6 or 7 good questions for you.
Okay.
So starting over, what
Yes.
would you do differently?
Different.
Yep.
I would play more cash flow games faster.
Okay, because, and I didn't even mention this, is that you're a cash flow teacher of the game, correct?
Right.
All
Yeah, I
right.
would play more
Master
cash flow games faster.
facilitator. Yep.
Yeah.
Master facilitator. Okay. All right. Because that help you spot opportunities. So guys, if you're looking and learning how to train your brain to see money, pick up cash flow, the game cash flow, go out there, play it, go to different meetups. You'll see it out there. You'll learn how to spot opportunities. Okay.
Yep. I also would have started the podcast sooner had I known.
Okay.
I didn't know, but I know now.
Yep. So what is your greatest commodity outside of capital?
Faith.
Okay. What is one thing you could do to be more productive?
Hire more people.
And just curious, how many people are on your team right now, Jay?
Not enough. So I when I did it, 8.
Okay. All right. And what drives your ambition? Because you're eating now, you're stable. What drives that ambition?
Well, and I had to ask Robert Kiyosaki and his people this when I was hanging out with them, because I needed an answer, because it was no longer about just money. Honestly, it's because I think about me. I think about the me that I was, and that I know that there are people out there today. There's a husband today somewhere listening, hoping, looking for an answer, wanting to be the man he's always envisioned, but doesn't have the tools. And I feel like I've been given uncommon access to something. So I got to get up and show up again, so that someone has a shot at having the tool, that perhaps someone might, I don't know, ask them, hey, have you heard the Cashførow Diary podcast? And then share it with a friend who then 4 years later starts a podcast. You know anybody like that?
Yeah, sounds like me. It sounds exactly like me.
That's why. That's the answer right there. The fact that this happens, and it's happening all over the country wherever we're heard, and I don't know most of the people. Makes me just feel good.
Yep. That's good, man. And I appreciate all that you do with the Cashførow Diary podcast. Again, I'm a faithful listener, man. So
thank you.
Jay, tell me, what do you believe is your greatest challenge, internal or external?
The greatest challenge is me. I'm always, and that's the thing that drives me nuts, is that I always find a new way to become the bottleneck. And we humans, we don't out-earn our own personal growth. So for me, that like a couple of years ago, it was discovering that that I have ADHD and that I'm autistic, and then learning how to integrate that, and then now learning how to build upon that, and now learning how to build a bigger team and deal with all of the next levels of separation and departments and all the corporate structure stuff that I just never went through. But it's by far, it's more personal growth stuff. I mean, hiring people, that's kind of fun. Firing them, not so much. So but that's all personal growth stuff. I'm just the bottleneck, and it's just a matter of continuing to push, knowing that I'm going to be the bottleneck again. I'm going to find a new way that your company is going to be efficient, and you'll find a new inefficiency. The 80-20 Pareto's principle is always there. Always.
So, I mean, you have great teachers. I mean, being a part of the Rich Dad community. Tell me a little bit about that. How did you get started with Robert Kiyosaki and Robert Helms and those guys?
What happened there is they have what's the Summit at Sea.
Yep.
So I was, again, something I actively do is I never want to be the smartest person in the room. And when you listen to Robert and Russ, they're smart people. So go hang out with them, period. Simple.
Yep.
And through that process, one time what happened is that they were about to do a cash flow game during the summit on the boat. And I didn't say anything at first. And I'm like, I was watching it go down. I'm just like, do you guys want some help? because I can kind of do this. This I got. I can do
Uh-huh.
this very well. And that led to them 1 year, because they didn't even tell me that Robert Kiyosaki and Kim were going to be there the next year. And I'm like, wait, what? So you want me now to, okay, cool. So this is great. So now I'm teaching with them in the room and and I'm just like, oh boy, no pressure, but let's do this.
Right.
Which then he saw, and then he invited me to start speaking with him and all kinds of stuff. So it was nothing more than educate to dominate. It was the same thing that I'd always done. I was solving a problem for people. Understand, Robert and Russ, they were exhibiting a problem in the moment, and I decided to ask if they would like my help in solving it.
Yeah.
And they said, sure. And I solved it. And
Step
that
up to the
leads
challenge.
to something else. That's it.
Okay.
Nothing more complicated than that. No 12-step email system.
Right.
It's just solve a problem.
Solve the problem. Guys, and you hear Jay constantly repeat this theme, just find the problem and solve it. There's no magic system, no magic, process. The process is identify the problem, see how you can solve the problem. That's basically it, and you look at it. Everyone that solves a problem, the bigger the problem that they solve, the more capital that they make. Look at, Steve Jobs. Hey, find a problem in the marketplace and solve it.
Here's a simple one that everyone will be able to relate to. Realize at one time, the problem was simply noting or capturing your thoughts and ideas. And no one had a writing instrument. So someone had an idea of what if I make a pen? A pen. Very simple concept.
Very simple.
Right? Solved the problem for a lot of people. And now you assume pens are everywhere. And understand, they were invented. They did not exist. Right? This is the case everywhere. This whole short-term rental thing that we do, invented, especially the way that we do it. Invented. It didn't exist before. Do you know how much time we spend just telling and educating a landlord on how it works? Oh my God, it's crazy. Because they're like, I've never heard of this.
Never heard of it.
We know. Ideas. That's your capital. You don't have a money problem. You have an idea problem. So, and this is a little bit off topic with the fire round here, Jay. So you guys are you doing the arbitrage, the tenant arbitrage? Basically, you find a landlord that's renting a property. Kind of tell us about that. Yeah, I do. So again, it's 3 phases. Phase 1, yes. During phase 1 and phase 2, you are definitely still operating by being the tenant for a landlord. It produces a higher return on investment. It's going to get you more experience faster. It's easier to execute, so you have more quick wins sooner, which psychologically is exactly what you need in order to make this thing work long term. And during phase 3, what's going to happen is because we're going to teach you cash flow management along the way, because part of what happens is that I tell people, look, take what you used to earn annually. Now imagine that happening monthly. And when that happens, that's a whole lot of cash that many people have never handled before. And I learned quickly that I had to teach this because some of our initial students, when we started teaching this, were shipwrecking themselves because there was just too much money in, and they're just like, I don't know, it's just all over the place. So we started teaching it so that you end up now with what we call a profit or purpose account. And long story short, as that account builds, you end up with enough money to go purchase real estate long-term or any other asset you want. So, and I know it may be hard to relate to today, but if you want to put yourself in a position to where you can begin to save, put away comfortably, like literally put away comfortably $3,000, $4,000 a month. This is a business where you can end up doing that really quickly.
Okay.
And that's what we end up teaching people how to do. And it doesn't take long at $3,000 to $4,000 a month for you, especially depending on where you live. You got a down payment every 90 days, right?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I can buy another house. I can buy another house. I can buy another house. Right. But you did it and you learned along the way. And that's the power. That's the power. So yeah, we want you to eventually purchase, but if you purchase, you pay such a huge opportunity cost at the beginning that I don't think it's worth it.
Okay. So Jay, how can we, if the listeners want to take advantage of what you guys are offering with the Cashflow Diaries, how can we get in touch with you? Tell us about the podcast, everything. This is your chance, man, to just lay it out for our listeners. How can we get in touch with you?
So if you type Cashflow Diary in on literally any social media platform, you'll probably find us. Cashflowdiarypodcast.com will get you directly to the podcast. But here's something that I find is really, really necessary. It is necessary when we're undertaking something new to have an initial goal. One of the most elusive goals is to figure out how many pieces of property, how many units do I need to retire? How many units do I need to be able to replace my income, quit my job? All those things are things that we hear all the time. So you know what I did? Made a calculator. You go to cashflowdiary.com/how many units. When you get there, put in your information, and what it's going to do, it's going to tell you need 10, 5, 7, 20, 30 units, and you will be able to retire. And for those of you wondering, yes, we've had people make double digits, get into the double digits and more of units in 12 months or less with zero experience. So it doesn't have to be far, and it can be done, and it's what we do. And yeah, we just perfected a system that allows someone, regardless of experience, to be able to actually get deals done in what I would consider to be record time.
Okay. So you guys know Cashflow Diaries. Just put that in any search engine. You'll see, Jay. You'll find the information. You'll see it there. Believe me, I've done it. It works. Highly rated podcast.
Thank you.
Cashflow Diaries. So Jay, before we leave, man, what are some instructions that we can give our listeners that are looking to jump into, short-term rental or wholesaling, something to get started as a real estate investor?
Instead of tracking, how many phone calls you got to make to get a deal done or something of that nature, or how long is it going to be before you start earning money, I want you to start tracking how many things you try every day and fail at. I'm asking you to intentionally fail at something. Even if you know exactly what to do the thing that you want to do today, I am asking you to try it a different way and fail at something. Start tracking how many failure events you can create in a day and wear a badge around that. Learn literally to fail fast, fail forward, fail frequently. On the other side of that is all the success you're looking for.
There you go. Words of wisdom, guys. Fail fast, fail forward, fail quickly, and you'll be on the other side of those failures, towards success. So Jay, I want to thank you, man. It's an awesome show. You made this show very easy. I am on this side listening and absorbing everything that you're saying and teaching. I'm not even a host. I'm a listener right now, man. So I really appreciate it. You made this podcast so easy, man. I wrote that. I've been sitting here writing down some actionable steps for me to take as well, So, hey, I want to thank you. I appreciate it, brother. You're doing an amazing job. Keep inspiring, keep teaching, keep pushing forward, and keep finding those opportunities in the marketplace and sharing them with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity, and for each of you listening, thank you for taking the time to do so.
Okay, guys, you know what to do. As Jay would say, move at the speed of instruction. Yes! So get going, get out there, get busy, and get going. So thank you again. We Love Equity listeners. We will see you next week with another show. So guys, that was Jay Massey. Like I said, during this, I was writing down some actionable items and tips for myself to help me go to the next level. You always have to have people that are ahead of you so you can be inspired, that you can reset goals, retarget, and reframe how you want to live. So remember, look at the show notes, go to cashflowdiary.com, download the podcast. Excellent information, excellent content. That's where I learn a lot of information. And we'll look forward to seeing you on next week. pretty soon we're going to start taking this podcast to airing every Monday. So look forward to that, and we'll have an announcement for that. So again, if you need any additional information, contact or go to marcusemaloney.com. That's marcusemaloney.com. And remember to always enjoy the journey. Thank you for listening to today's show. I picked up some great actionable items, and I'm sure you did as well. If so, let me know. You can always reach me via social media at facebook.com/MRCSMaloney, Twitter at MRCSMaloney, and of course, IG at MRCSMaloney. You can also always reach me via email at mmaloney@equityri.com. Make sure you reach out to our guests as well. You can always find their contact information in the show notes below. If you have not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Join the family. And while you're at it, leave us a 5-star review. This is how we tell if we're providing you with what you need for your journey. If there's someone you would like for me to interview, or if there's a subject matter you would like for me to cover, please let me know. Finally, if you're looking for additional information about real estate investing, go to equityrealestateblog.com. Also, youtube.com/Marcus Maloney. Until next time, family, always enjoy the journey.